Good morning, all. I would like to welcome the members, the viewing public, and the participants to our 19th meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions, Statutory Authorities, including the Tobago House of Assembly in the 12th Parliament. This meeting is being broadcast live on Parliament channel and is also being streamed on the Parliament's YouTube channel, PALView. Today, we are convening our first public hearing pursuant to our follow-up examinations on the second report of the committee in the 11th Parliament, which is 2015 to 2020, on an inquiry into the certain aspects of the administration of Tobago House of Assembly. We are pleased to have officials from the following divisions of the THA joining us virtually: from the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy, and the Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation. At this stage, I would like to introduce the members of the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy to please introduce themselves. So, members from the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy, could you please introduce yourselves?
Good morning, Chair. I am Nikisha Otley, Acting Administrator at the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. I am Anselm Richards, the Chief Technical Advisor at the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee, also our fellow divisions attendees at this meeting. My name is Petal Ann Roberts, Chief Management Accountant under the Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning to all the members. My name is Eric Leith. I am the Senior Policy Analyst in the Economic Management and Research Unit of the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy.
Yeah. Members from Division of Tourism, Culture, I think you may be muted. Could you please introduce yourselves?
Good morning, Chair, and to the members and everyone present. I am Suresh Duku, Acting Administrator at the Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members of the committee and colleagues from the Tobago House of Assembly. I am Corrice Nances, Technical Advisor with responsibility for tourism in the Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee and fellow division members. My name is Dexter Trim, Event Project Coordinator, Tobago Festivals Commission Limited.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee, fellow colleagues at the Tobago House of Assembly. I am Sheena Devines, Marketing Coordinator at the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. I am Kirsten Cowie-Irvin, Product Development Officer at the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited.
Morning all again. So I am Dr. Varmadiyal Singh. I'm an independent senator and chair of this committee. And now I'd like the members of our committee to please introduce themselves.
Morning, Chairman.
Good morning. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Hislop. My name is Khadija Amin. I'm an opposition MP for St. Augustine, and I'm a member of the committee.
Morning, Chairman and members and officers from the Tobago House of Assembly. Lawrence Hislop, member.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Lisa Morris Julian, member.
Good morning again, all. And I would like to advise the public that the objectives of this inquiry is really one, to look into the previous inquiry we had on March to June 2016. Our initial inquiry then looked into certain aspects of the administration of the Tobago House of Assembly. And the committee's report of this inquiry was presented in the House of Representatives in the Senate on December the 7th, 2016, and in also in the Senate on December the 19th, 2016. The primary aim of this follow-up is to evaluate the progress made by the THA in implementing the recommendations contained in the caption report with regard to A, the projects and initiatives aimed at improving revenue generation, B, the state of the tourism sector in Tobago, C, the efficiency and the reliability of transportation services, and D, the development of the agriculture sector in Tobago, which will be looked at in a following subsequent meeting. So at this stage, I would like the Ms. Nikita Otley, the administrator of the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy, to give us a brief 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and all members of the Joint Select Committee. I am Nikisha Otley, Acting Administrator of the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy. It is indeed a dutiful privilege for me to lead a team of witnesses appearing this morning. Our sincere aim of providing factual information and data will satisfy the committee's inquiry into certain aspects of the fiscal and financial operations of the Tobago House of Assembly. In this regard, the division has submitted to the committee detailed written responses to all the questions, as well as updates to the recommendations. Relatedly, my team and I are unquestioningly here this morning to provide clarity or any additional information should there be an emanating need from the committee. Our express commitment is informed by the core values of good governance, that is transparency, accountability, fair and responsible public administration that discipline the fiscal and financial operations of the Assembly. That said, Mr. Chairman, my team and I are willing and ready to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Otley. And at this stage, would Mr. Suresh Dukku, the Administrator, Acting Administrator of the Division of Tourism, Antiquities and Culture, give us a brief 2-minute opening statement.
Good morning again to the chairman and members and everyone present. I am Suresh Dukku, Acting Administrator of the Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation, Tobago House of Assembly. I have been privileged to hold this position for the past 5 months. Through its various units and special purpose companies, the division is responsible for positioning Tobago as a preferred tourist destination by providing authentic experience through people-oriented development strategies, partnership with stakeholders, and a highly motivated and knowledgeable team of employees. The progress of this mandate was undoubtedly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic as we collectively experience firsthand its negative impact on the tourism industry. Though the island's airlift only resumed in January 2022, and I must say later than our regional counterparts, we have seen and continue to witness the incredible resilience of our people as we adjust to these and other adversities and changes. Additionally, in December 2021, the executive arm of the Tobago House of Assembly change undoubtedly resulted in the review and establishment of a new policy direction that aligns with the current executive mandate. Currently, the division has 3 special purpose companies that fall directly under its purview. These are the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited, the Tobago Festivals Commission Limited, and the Tobago Performing Arts Company Limited, which are directly responsible for driving the rejuvenation and competitiveness of Tobago's tourism, festivals, and performing arts sector. These companies are also tasked with leading the charge related to development of our product and the repositioning of Tobago as a premier island destination. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duku. I would like to remind both committee members and officials to direct their questions through the chair, and also remind the members and the officials to kindly activate the microphone on your devices when they are acknowledged by the chair, and turn it off when they have concluded their contribution. So I must say I am, yes, yeah. Where you have it? Yeah, it is. Yeah. So at this stage, I would like to welcome you members here to at least help us to see how we can move forward with assisting the Tobago House of Assembly in meeting its mandate. And we heard there were some new directives with the new administration in place. So our Joint Select Committee is tasked with the function of looking at bodies of like the Service Commission, statutory authorities, including the THA, to see how they function, to see if they are meeting their mandate, to look to see if we can monitor their inefficiencies and seek to improve them. The THA today is within our radar, and the public and my committee members would want to see to judge how you all are functioning. So since our last report in 2016, certain deficiencies were noted, certain guidelines and recommendations were made, and to assist basically to the service of the citizens of Tobago and Trinidad. So today we sit here to see what has been achieved. Today we look to see if there are certain things we can somehow get together and put forward to assist you all, because as we know, there were unforeseen events along the way, the COVID pandemic, and then we saw there was a change in the political directorate, which again, there's a new trust or a new directives would have been given, as mentioned by Mr. Duku. So therefore, our objective is really to scrutinize certain aspects of the administration of the THA. And I would like to start first in making the fact that, you know, we had this goal in 2016, these recommendations made. We wanted to achieve certain things, but because of the COVID, we would have gotten some sort of setback. So I would like to ask this question to the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy. According to your submission, data was collected from a sample of 249 businesses over the period of March 9th to March the 22nd, 2022, representing 8% of the Tobago business register. So my question is this study an ongoing initiative or has it been concluded?
Chair, permit me to ask Mr. Derek Lee to respond to this question.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Okay, the recommendations emanating from the study suggest a continuation of the exercise to better understand the longer-term impacts of the pandemic on businesses. So yes, it was a one-time study, but we are recommending that further data be collected to further understand the longer-term impacts of the pandemic on businesses on the island.
Do you have an idea when this will be concluded, this further for the initiative to get some sort of clarity about what's happening with the COVID?
Well, what we understood so far will be, you could say, the short-term impacts, all right? So we haven't decided in terms of the full length of time that we would be engaged in this, but yes, we would want to extend the collection of the data so we can have a greater appreciation and understanding for the impacts of the pandemic on the businesses on the island.
Could you tell me what was the criteria used to select businesses to be part of this sample group? Because I think it's 8% of the Tobago business register.
Right, so we would have segmented the data in terms of the business size. So because we have small, we have micro, small, medium, and a few large. We have also segregated it in terms of the geographical location. So we wanted to ensure that we have a sample that is fully representative in terms of size, industry, in terms of which industry they operate, and the geographical location of the businesses.
Yeah, thank you. So, but according to your submission, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a very devastating impact on businesses in Tobago. And this is particularly due to them being small and operating in the tourism sector. So based on the reported impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, has this experience encouraged the THA to increase its effort towards the diversification of the Tobago economy?
Chair and please permit Mr. Anselm Richards to respond to this question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Definitely, the findings of the study have informed the strategic direction for the socio-economic development of the island. So we are now looking specifically to create new opportunities for business development. We are looking precisely at the Cove Industrial Estate to see what kinds of businesses that we can bring in that will be less dependent on tourism and more geared towards manufacturing. We are also looking at inviting foreign direct investment in other sectors outside of tourism and to even boost our sports tourism product. We are also looking at the aggregate sector in Tobago, the quarrying and mining, to build out a more sustainable economic base that is less vulnerable than the tourism base that is subject to all kinds of external shocks.
So what sort of foreign business initiatives or ventures are you looking at?
Well, basically, what the trend is showing that the foreign investors are still leaning heavily into the tourism sector. So we are getting a number of invitation or invites, if you want to say, for investment in the tourism sector and hotel development and all of that. But we are trying to see how we can shift that to get knowledge transfer in more productive sectors. Like we are looking specifically at the Study Park Quarry. There's an opportunity there for us to do value-added products like sandpaper, stone tiles, and all of that. So we are looking for that kind of investment into the Tobago economy. We are also looking to see if we can attract industries or companies from the technological sector, ICT sector, so we can change the economic footprint of Tobago.
Thank you. So that's something that is commendable. Yeah, but what sort of any sort of companies have expressed interest from even within the CARICOM region that would say they would want to come and open a business here? We're trying to get something like a tangible thing to say, well, listen, if tourism is suffering due to whatever reason, the economy, pandemic, what could make Tobago survive? What could make you an entity? Could you export anything? Could you send things to Trinidad? You mentioned aggregate and these things. Is it that for the internal market only, or are you thinking about export?
As I indicated, we are attempting and we are doing the kinds of investment to create the industrial park a core, so we can have light manufacturing companies coming into that space and producing the type of goods for export, particularly in the first instance to Tobago, to Trinidad. Well, Tobago in the first instance, Trinidad, and then we look to go up the region. We can signal that is happening. We have an international company in the name of Berry Cove that have made a significant investment to produce strawberries in Tobago. That project is far advanced, and I think in the coming months we will be able to ship strawberries to Trinidad and other countries in the region. So that's the kind of industrial evolution we are looking at for the Tobago space.
Are there investments here? Because I looked at there's a Berry Cove Limited, an agricultural company. There's the Elephant Tree Resort, the Apple Leisure Group, British Caribbean Limited, and Tobago Data Center Limited. What are these companies? What niche those companies would have? Give us some idea that we would, we'll have some idea that, hey, there's things are happening.
Right. So, Mr. Chair, the Berry Cove is the one I mentioned about. That is in the business of strawberry production. And as I indicated, in the coming months, you may be able to purchase some of those strawberries on the shelves in the groceries and other business places in Trinidad. And then we head up the region in terms of the export potential of that company. The Elephant Tree leans into the tourism sector. That's a resort. The Apple Leisure Group is also a tourism product. We have the British Caribbean Limited Capital Investment that is looking into sports tourism. They are thinking about building out an international cricket stadium that can accommodate cricket and other motor sports on the island. And the data center goes into the ICT sector in terms of our technical footprint in the technology industries.
So which of these ventures are the most advanced stage that we can look forward to say, hey, probably within next year, something will happen,
Well, I indicated before, Mr. Chairman, that Berry Cove, you will be able to purchase strawberries in a few months from Berry Cove.
So I was a bit happy to hear about the sport city. Have you considered using the name of Claude Noel to have a sort of boxing academy or something that could actually bring in persons here to get training, since we have had even acting academy, since we had one of your citizens there, in the acting arena. Have you considered bringing in like an acting academy or sporting academy that would be able to carry Tobago forward using the name of those Tobagonians who had made it internationally?
Well, these recommendations are proposal received from potential investors, and these are at the infancy stages. So we can have those kinds of conversations with our potential investors as we move forward in rolling out and implementing these development projects.
Okay, so then I also, well, the town Scarborough is named after the town in Yorkshire in United Kingdom. Have you considered having, like, there's an organization called Sisters City International, which tend to twin towns. Are there any areas in Tobago that you have considered, like, the twin cities, the twin towns, that you could now encourage an exchange of information, even to bring in foreign investment, even to bring in these any sort of knowledge or certain aspects these sister cities might be able to help Tobago?
At that as a definite project, but we are rolling out a very interesting project, which is called our Diaspora Initiative. And I think probably that may be able to fit into that wider diaspora framework very neatly. So we'll take note of that suggestion, Mr. Chair, and we'll interweave it into our diaspora strategy.
Thank you. At this stage, our member, Ms. Morris Julian, would like to ask a few questions.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Chairman, I'm particularly interested in the youth tourism program. On page 4, question 1, and I would like some details on behalf of the committee, approximately how much funds have been allocated to the 8 tourism youth clubs for fiscal 2022 and 2023. And for the viewing and listening public, Chairman, I would also like an explanation. What is a tourism youth club? Chairman, I'm not sure who will be answering the question.
Right. Well, so it would be somebody from the finance department would be able to hopefully give us some clarity in that question. Sure.
Chair, if I may, that question could be responded to by the Division of Tourism as it relates to.
Okay, sure. That division will do. Okay. Will someone from tourism division please attempt to answer that?
Right. Good morning again. The Tourism Youth Club is an initiative of the Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities, and Transportation at our programming unit division. We reach out to secondary schools to have these tourism clubs. Now, these clubs, we highlight to these clubs the different careers that the tourism sector have. We take these clubs to different parts of the island to show them the different facilities and the different views of the island. As according to the budget for these, I do not have that figure right now, but I can provide that at a later date. Okay.
Yes, thank you
very much, Chairman. Chairman, I just want to go back to the Division of Finance, Trade, and the Economy. All right. The strategies post-COVID-19 recovery. According to your submission, the Oversight Technical Committee has developed a loan guarantee program which is being reviewed. That was the answer for question 2, page 3, paragraph 1. So I have a couple questions. 1, what is the proposed timeline for the completion of the review of the program? And 2, implementation of the program.
Chair, permit me to have Mr. Anthony Richards respond to that question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So following the findings from the study that was done on the impact of the COVID-19 on businesses in Tobago, and in conversation with the business community over the last year, we recognize that one of the critical needs of our businesses in Tobago is cash flow or the need for operational capital. In that regard, we have been looking at different options as to how we can provide assistance to the business community in Tobago, because we recognize that the current financial services system in the country is not taking into consideration the unique and peculiar circumstances of the Tobago economy. And as a responsible government, the new administration have taken the policy position to see what is the most strategic way they can provide this kind of support to the business community to ensure that our businesses remain alive. In that regard, we have been looking at different options, even at the government support program for businesses. And we recognize that those programs present some challenges for the Tobago businesses. And in that regard, we have been looking at a model and we came to the conclusion where we have to provide a soft landing for our businesses. And we came up with a loan guarantee program. We have developed the framework, the policy framework for that program. We have had, as recently as yesterday, a conversation with all the commercial banks through BAT yesterday, where we roll out the program, because at the end of the day, the commercial banks will be the lending agency, and the TJ will provide some kind of, I think we are targeting about 80% guarantee of the principal that the businesses will be borrowing from the banks. So we have had that conversation with the banking community yesterday, where we went through the proposed program, and there are some technical tweaks that needs to be made. And we have another meeting carded for Friday, next Friday, where we will work out all those concerns and the legal framework for the operationalization of that program. So at this particular point, I cannot give a definite startup date, but we are hoping that we can have this program implemented and up and running before the end of fiscal 2023.
Thank you, Ms. Morris-Julian. Before you proceed with the question, I would just like to ask one question. According to your submission, the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic showed that the Tobago's GDP declined by approximately 6%. What is the estimated dollar value of this 6% decline? Division of Finance, could you clarify?
Chair, at this time, we do not have the dollar value to provide, but that could be provided at a later time.
Sure, thank you. You could provide it in writing. Yeah, Ms. Morris-Julian, you could proceed with your questions.
Sorry, Chairman. Chairman, I just would like, well, I was very encouraged with what I heard, but the implementation of the program is information that the committee will definitely be interested in the future. But I'm moving on to, according to your submission, furthermore, assistance was also provided to business operators in the tourism sector through the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited to improve their accommodations. Mr. Chairman, through you, can the division let us know what was the total cost allocated to business operators, and what was the criterion used to establish who was allocated assistance to improve their accommodations?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Petal-Ann Roberts will respond to that question.
Right. Good morning again. Right. The Tobago House of Assembly was allocated in fiscal 2022, 50 million to provide support to the tourism sector. And out of that, 20 million was allocated to facilities under the tourism sector, hotels and hoteliers and so forth. So that was the amount that was allocated. However, the Division of Tourism, TTAL, Tobago Tourism Agency Limited, was responsible for overseeing the disbursement of the funds. So they'll be able to tell how the funds were disbursed and allocated to the facilities.
Thank you.
Through you, Chairman, just for our clarification. So the Finance Division did not have anything to do to decide who was allocated the funding. It was all left up to. Go ahead.
Right. So the 50 million was the Chief Secretary at the time decided how the 50 million was going to be apportioned. Right, 5 million was supposed to be towards the ancillary services, for instance, like your tour guides, tour operators, your bridal and those types of industries, restaurants and so forth. I think 10 million was supposed to go to digitization, 20 to the accommodation sector, and then there was support to persons who lost their jobs. These are individuals in the tourism sector. However, the Division of Finance was not responsible for how the execution of the funding to the facilities, not the Division of Finance,
so,
Division of Tourism.
Excuse me, through you, Chairman, let me just make this absolutely clear because I'm still a little confused. So the Chief Secretary was the one who decided who were the persons or the establishments allocated assistance, correct? Yes or no?
No, not at all. No.
Okay. So it was the tourism.
It was tourism. The Chief Secretary and the Executive Council decided how the 50 million was disaggregated. But in terms of the disbursement of the funds to companies and hoteliers, that was done by both the Division of Tourism and the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited.
Could tourism come in there, the Division of Tourism, to clarify what was the criteria used to establish who was allocated assistance to improve the accommodations?
Thank you, Chair. I would ask personnel from TTAL to explain that, please.
Good morning. The application criteria, applicants must complete the application form, provide national ID, be in operation for at least 1 year, provide business registration, proof of ownership deed affidavit, Board of Inland Revenue clearance, BIR clearance, VAT clearance, room tax receipts for 3 months once applicable, public liability insurance, statement of financials, meaning it must include your income statement and balance sheet for 2 years, evidence of registration in an association. We have 2, the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association or the Tobago Unique Bed and Breakfast and Self-Catering Association. Also, they must register for TTIC, which is the Trinidad and Tobago Tourism Industry Certification Program, and provide us with the scope of works and quotations.
Mr. Hislop, do you have a follow-up question in regard to this, what we are pursuing now?
Yes, Chairman. For us to be clear, I want to make sure that this program that we're speaking to is the Tourism Accommodation Upgrade Program. Is that what we're speaking to?
No, I gave you the criteria for the phase 2 of the Tourism Accommodation Relief Grant, which is the same criteria for the tourism accommodation, the phase 1 of the Tourism Accommodation Relief Grant.
Okay, so could we, through you, Chairman, could we just get some clarity about the phase 1 of the program, Chairman?
Well, the phase, sorry.
Yes, proceed with the answer, please.
Yes, phase 1.
The phase 1 had exactly the same criteria. It was just different purposes. So let's say the phase 1, that was for hard works, refurbishment works, whereas phase 2 is for operational expenses. So their utility bills, things in the office, health and safety, and anything required for TTIC.
So with regards to phase 1, how many properties have engaged that to date, and how much of the allocated funds have been reimbursed to property owners to date?
124 properties benefited from phase 1, a total of $27,839,580.98.
How many properties does that equate to, Chairman? Through you, Chairman.
Yeah.
124. We had different categories. So for the first one, if you could, one moment. There was 2 to 7 bedrooms, 8 to 50 bedrooms, 51 to 99 bedrooms, 100 to 100 and plus bedrooms. So there were different categories and different amounts. So those in the 2 to 7 bedrooms got $100,000, 8 to 50 bedrooms got $300,000, 51 to 99 got $500,000, and 100 plus was $600,000. They got it in 2 tranches. So when they got the first half, they had to account for the use of the first half by providing receipts, which were tallied. They also provided proof of pictures of the works, and what else? They also had to say how far they got with TTIC. TTIC is the program that certifies them to make sure the property has the relevant standards, but the relevant national standards.
So far, all of the properties that would have been engaged, so far all of the properties have received their reimbursements with regards to their upgrades.
Well, no, you're confusing TOP with the grant. TOP phase 1 and phase 2, that's a grant. So, TOP is reimbursement. TAG phase 1, phase 2 is reimbursement. TOP is is a grant. TOP Tourism Accommodation Relief Grant, that is the reimbursement.
Okay.
So tourism, understand? That one is where they apply, spend their own money, and we reimburse them either 50% or 40% based on the category which they fall in. So you have to try not to confuse the programs, because one is reimbursement, which is TOP, which TTL also administers, that's the Trinidad agency, and the grants were just Tobago, phase 1, phase 2 called TAG, and those were COVID grants.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, could I just have a follow-up with the Division of Finance with regards to the loan guarantee that the technical advisor spoke to?
Remember.
Mr. Richards, through the chairman, you spoke to the loan guarantee to the businesses. My question is, how does the THA propose to guarantee 80%? Where is that funding coming from? Just for clarity.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Well, we are hoping that the Minister of Finance will be kind enough to provide the finding under the COVID relief item that we spoke of. But outside of that, we are looking at our resources. We are looking to identify the required funding so that we can set it aside in an account to be held in one of the banks, so that the funds will be there in an account similar to an escrow account. The funds will not be dispersed, but it will be assigned as guaranteed to the loans that satisfy the conditionality for such a program.
So the funding, through you, Chairman, the funding will come from which side? It will come from the development side of the budgetary allocation?
We are looking at recurrent transfers, given the nature of the program and how assistance were provided to the businesses in the past, and how the central government itself provided in support to businesses under the recurrent program, fiscal programming.
Okay, that's very interesting, Chairman. Thank you.
Ms. Morris-Julian, I think you wanted to proceed with some questions. Yeah.
Chairman, I just have one, well, maybe two more questions. But first I want to ask to the division, continuing along this line. Some of the COVID-19 relief measures of the central government, which were directed at small and micro enterprises, included the relief grants, import substitution model, the loan guarantee, export booster. Could you tell us to what extent was the Tobago business community able to benefit from these relief measures? Chairman, through you to the Division of Finance.
Division of Finance.
Chairman, may I ask Ms. Julian to repeat her question, please? Thanks.
Sure.
Apologies if you did not hear. I just wanted some details on the COVID-19 relief measures of central government, which were directed at small and micro enterprises, which included the import substitution model, entrepreneurial relief grant, the loan guarantee, which we discussed, credit union business liquidity support program, the export booster initiative, capacity building, institutional strengthening, among others. And the question is, Chairman, through you, to what extent was the Tobago business community able to benefit from these relief measures? Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, we cannot say if the Tobago business community had benefited from the central government initiative, but that information can be provided at a later time.
Thank you very much. We'll appreciate it if it's in writing. And just to clarify through you, Chairman, the data is available and you just don't have it at present, or is this something you have to investigate?
I would have to investigate, Ms. Julian.
All right, Chairman, my final question for the Finance Division through you. According to your submission, in addition to the food card program, there are a host of programs that are available to support vulnerable groups in Tobago. This was your answer to question 2, page 3, paragraph 4. For the benefit of the listening and viewing public, what are some of the major programs available to support vulnerable groups in Tobago? And finally, what arrangements are in place to measure the impact of these particular programs?
Administrator, could you please see if you can clarify that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Some of the programs, Mr. Chair, that were available to vulnerable groups, other than the food card initiative, we had the financial assistance for tertiary education under the Division of Education, Research and Technology. Also, we had financial assistance to necessitous students, as well as the Division of Education, Research and Technology. We also had the Home Improvement Program, which was further expanded to facilitate persons who would have had loss of income and loss of jobs, but had remedial works to be done to their homes. This was provided under the Division of Settlements, Public Utilities and Rural Development. The REACH program was also under the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. And this program offered assistance to groups and businesses that needed funding, as well as individuals that needed funding to aid in the continuation of their business and the impacts that the COVID-19 pandemic would have had on their businesses.
Looking at volunteers, yeah, sure. Go ahead, member.
I just need further clarification because I didn't quite get that. So could you please re-explain it to me in layman's terms, because I really didn't get it and it seemed like it was a simple explanation, but I honestly didn't get it. I'm sure Member Hislop got it, but I did not get it. So if you could just explain it to me again, thank you. Through you, Chair.
Mr. Chairman, based on my understanding of the question, I would have first been asked to list or give some of the programs that were available. Am I correct?
I didn't just ask about the programs that are available. I'm also asking about the impact of the programs.
Mr. Chairman, the impact that these divisions would have had on the business community and individuals in Tobago, that
through you, Chairman,
can be provided.
Through you, Chairman, let me just say it again, right? The major programs available to support the vulnerable groups and the arrangements that are in place to measure the impact of these programs. For clarification, for example, there is a food card program, right? How many people benefit from the said program, right? What else in addition to the food card program that vulnerable groups can access? How do people benefit? How do you measure the impact of these programs? I hope I am making myself more clear. Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you very much, Division of Finance, Trade and Economics.
Yeah, so for clarification, no, 1 minute. So we're actually looking at how do you monitor and evaluate your programs? This is what we're trying to get.
Mr. Chair, so the programs were listed and the impact or the monitoring, of the impact these programs are having on the recipients, the businesses or individuals can be provided as they would have been measured by the divisions who are responsible for administering the programs. These divisions, again, were the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection, the Division of Education, Research and Technology, and the Division of Settlement, Public Utilities and Rural Development. The information can be provided at a later date in writing.
Thank you. Through you, Chairman. I just have one simple question. Just one simple question.
Sure.
How do you deal with instances of fraud, for example? All right, as part of the monitoring and evaluation of these programs that we are waiting for in writing. Any example?
The programs are administered under the various divisions. They would have their criteria for applicants under which they must undergo to qualify for the program, for the assistance, before it is being approved or issued to the various applicants. I cannot speak to what provision is in place in the process to detect or treat with any instances of fraud. However, that information can be researched and provided to you in writing at a later time.
Okay.
A question to the, yeah, thank you. But a question to the Division of Finance. Do you have an oversight role to the other divisions, how they spend their money and, if they are doing it above board?
Mr. Chair, our budget department would have general oversight over the release of funds, the respective purpose for which the fund was released. That will be monitored through that division, and reports would be given by divisions to that department, and that is how we monitor our releases and the subsequent expenditure and use of the fund. We also have the internal audit department within the Tobago House of Assembly, which will also monitor systems within the Tobago House of Assembly.
In our last inquiry in 2016, there were, I think the Auditor General said there were certain gaps in the providing of information, timely information. Have there been any sort of improvement in the accounting and to the Auditor General's department?
Mr. Chair, I would allow Mrs. Petalon Roberts to respond to that question.
Right. Mr. Chair, coming out of all the Auditor General's reports that we have had over the years, we have recognized that records management is one of the challenges that we face in the Tobago House of Assembly, particularly when divisions move from one facility or one building to another. There are some specific divisions that face those challenges more than others. And those divisions, and I've named them, Division of Infrastructure, Division of Education, Division of Foods, now Food Security, and the Office of the Chief Secretary. Because they have moved, we have had some strategies to aid and improve the records management practices. So those divisions, for instance, would have had retired personnel who are trained record management persons to come back to those divisions and reorganize the vault and records management systems in those divisions. I know for certain, I actually was present at both Division of Infrastructure and the Division of Education when they had the new system rolled out for the reorganization of the records management. Also, divisions had to lease and rent additional storage facilities due to this problem, because as the Auditor General audits a year, you put them in a place that is not so accessible because they've already been audited. So we have a number of years unaudited, and divisions had to find suitable accommodation for the records. So for instance, the Division of Health, they leased another building that they call their records management facility under the Office of the Chief Secretary. Recently, we have reorganized the records management as well. We rented another space, and we have a records manager, personnel and officer who is trained in records management, who oversees the facility. Right, so we have had training of persons involved in records. We took back persons on short term to reorganize the vaults and repackage and open packages and ensure that what is inside is really written on the outside, and reorganized documents according to type and accounting, and which is books, cash books, and so forth. So those were the strategies that we continue to implement. It's an ongoing process because every day records are being generated. The THA is mostly manual. All the accounting
are you digitizing these records with an IT staff? Yeah.
Right. We have not yet started that. However, I know now in this fiscal we are going to begin with digitizing Executive Council minutes and the Hansard records at the Assembly Legislature. So we are starting there, right? We have received a new line item called digitization of THA operations, and that was the first phase to digitize those records in the first instance.
You had, in your report, I think, you had mentioned that you have engagement on short-term contracts, experience and trained record management, retired personnel, as you mentioned. How many persons were recruited under this arrangement?
Right. So I'll have to get that the specific details, but this was done by divisions, right? So I really have to get that data for you in terms of how many persons. But I called one administrator who at the time executed this new records management strategy. And she did indicate at that division only 2 were trained, but the other divisions I'll have to get the data on in terms of how many persons were trained at the time. Because usually at the vaults and where records are kept, there are 2, as far as I know, there are 2 persons.
When did the recruitment of these employees commence?
Well, it varies because this started, this whole strategy and initiative started somewhere in 2020, and that was after several Auditor General reports. So I can't give a date because divisions do things at different times. So I'll have to get the data as to when each division would have started this records management strategy.
So we appreciate that that those inquiries, these questions in writing, please. I think Member Hislop, do you have some questions I think you would now want to pose?
Yes, Chairman. Thank you. I just want to go back to something before I move on to the questions that I have. It's a follow-up to this loan guarantee, and it has me a little concerned. I'm sorry that, Mr. Richards, I seem to be slightly picking on you a bit. Through you, Chairman, is it that this program is a mirror to the loan guarantee program that the government, the central government has had or has in place? And okay, so based on your answer, I'll see if I have a follow-up, Mr. Richards.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We looked at what the central government was offering. We had a conversation with the Tobago business community, and there is a need for a Tobago unique financial support arrangement for the businesses in Tobago. That's the conclusion that we came to. And we have been working through this for over a year. And the model or the method we came up with is a loan guarantee program. We are not giving the businesses of Tobago, Tobagonians tax dollars. We are saying we see a need, we are going to put some guarantee here to make these cash flows available to the Tobago business. So we are not giving Tobago businesses free money. We are just giving them a facility to access the cash from the banks.
Okay,
I just want to make that about.
Okay, so it is not that coming out of the recurrent expenditure, you're going to take, or the recurrent allocation, you're going to take monies to give to the businesses. This is it is as if you're using the THA's funding as a collateral for them to receive financing from the banks.
That's another way you can see we are using some cash of the THA as collateral, in a sense, to make the loans available through the commercial banks to the businesses in Tobago. That's actually a brilliant way of putting it.
So is it that if a business person defaults on a loan, that whatever the quantum of the loan is that the business person took from the commercial bank, that portion of the loan guarantee from the THA will then be used to liquidate that loan?
Well, that is part of the setup. But what we are ensuring in this is that the THA does not enjoy any unnecessary exposure in this arrangement. So in the arrangement with the banks, we have asked the banks to ensure that their normal commercial business adjudication and monitoring practices be applied just as a commercial loan without the default position that there is a guarantee. So that the bank will have the duty and responsibility to police these clients or these borrowers to ensure that they pay back these loans on time.
And let's say, Chairman, let's say to the Chairman, let's say they just don't. Let's say, for instance, okay, so is there a limit to which the business person can borrow? Because it's primarily for cash flow. So it's not for capital expenditure, it's for cash flow. So is there a limit that a business entity can borrow and have this guarantee as a facility? What is the limit? Is there a limit?
So there is a limit that we are working with. The national limit with the government program that you referred to is $600,000 over 7 years. There is no interest. The interest is paid by the government. There is no security, and there is 2 years moratorium. So that's a national program. We are looking at that. We are saying that the businesses in Tobago will pay principal and interest. The THA will provide a guarantee. There will be a maximum amount that business could borrow. The Tobago situation is a little bit more unique. The businesses are demanding a little higher level of cash flow than what obtains in the national program. So we are looking at about $1 million to $1.2 million as the upper ceiling.
So how does that, how would that affect the THA's credit position? Because let's say for instance, if the THA puts up $1 billion as the guarantee, that in the fund, how does that, one, affect the THA's credit position, and two, since as it is basically going to be coming from the recurrent allocation, how does that then affect the THA's ability to pay recurrent expenditure? Right.
So, and let me just start by saying that the THA doesn't have $1 billion to put up in.
No, I know, we just use a figure.
Right. So let me just state that for the record. And two, I also indicated that we are hoping, and we will make the application in the budget estimate for fiscal 2024, that the Minister of Finance will find good favor in this program and provide the line item to provide the funding. However, the THA is looking at its cash flow realities, and we are looking at whether we can make savings in our fiscal and financial operation to put these funds aside to provide this kind of relief, which is drastically needed by our businesses in Tobago.
So I appreciate the need by the businesses. I know the businesses have been struggling, but I just want to put on the record, Mr. Chairman, that I'm a bit concerned with regards to how this is going to be funded, whether the requisite approvals have been given, if they are needed, and I'm a bit concerned that it may affect the THA's credit position, because if a business falters, which may possibly happen on repaying a loan that it is based on the THA's funding or the THA's guarantee. But we'll move on from that if Mr. Richards doesn't have any more clarity. But I just want to...
Right, so let me just clear that up. So when we say that we are looking to fund it from recurrent expenditure, we are making the request to the Minister of Finance in our budget submission under a recurrent expenditure line item, the same one that was used for the COVID relief programs.
Okay.
So come along with me with this, right? In addition to that, we are looking within our fiscal and financial operations to find savings where we can identify savings to make those savings available to provide the funds to guarantee this program. There is no arrangement in this equation that speaks to taking current recurrent expenditure funds to fund this program. So I want you to leave with this clearly in mind, my friend.
No, I'm aware of that. I'm fully aware of that. I'm just putting on the record the concern going forward, right? But just to treat to the questions, Mr. Chairman, in your submission, this is to the Division of Finance, the THA has taken a policy decision to use the design, finance, build modality to fund some of the island's infrastructure development projects. And the question coming out of that, or the two questions coming out of that, is what if any projects were identified for completion under this construction model, and if any, and which contractors are the THA proposing under this regime?
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you. We understand the challenges we face in Tobago with our development allocation. And just for a historical account of this, which I think is important for the record, and I will just use last year's fiscal as a point in reference. We have presented a budget to the Tobago Assembly, which was celebrated by the Minister of Finance in the Parliament during the national budget presentation. We requested $900 million to execute our development program for Tobago for fiscal year 2023. We only received a quarter of that, one third of that, $300 million. That is what we classify as cottage industry development, which has stymied Tobago for a number of years. We have to find other modalities to move the island development needs in quick order if we have to survive the rapid changes that we're experiencing in the global, regional, and national environment. In that regard, we have to find ways of getting our development agenda moving. This is one of the modalities that the administration have identified as bringing some kind of relief to advance our developmental needs, our infrastructural developmental needs. In this regard, a few programs were initiated under this arrangement. The Montmary Smithfield Road, that was one of them. The other road, that was the King Peters Bay Road, that bring relief to a number of families. And my colleague from in Moriah, that road that replaced the steps so that the residents in that area now have vehicle access to their homes, was funded on that, was done under that arrangement. We have the Lamy Roxborough Road that creates another bypass should something happen between Lamy and Roxborough on the Windward Main Road. That's another access road to get you out of that kind of situation. There is the Pigeon Point Milford Court Road extension. That road is under consideration. And there is a program which has not been initiated as yet, which is flagged for that kind of modality. It is called the Emergency Housing Program, which is intended to provide housing relief for those persons who have been displaced and are struggling from a rental accommodation that will displace from the airport development site. And then there is the Shervan Cove Connector Road. Those are the projects that are being considered for that kind of modality.
The second part to the question, do you have that for us now, or could that be provided in writing? If you have it now, we can take that information. Which contractors are the THA proposing under this regime?
Well, these projects will go out for public tendering in keeping with the procurement legislation, and the successful contractors will be selected based on the financial arrangement, the design, the engineering design, and all of that fits the needs and the requirement of the program. For those projects that were executed, I will get that are on the way. I don't have the names of the contractors with me. I can get that and provide that for you in writing.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a follow-up.
1 minute, member. 1 minute. I want to find out, based on that, have there been any invitation to tenders given out to any groups yet?
Well, the THA have put out a public request for proposal in our infrastructure development program, an open public invitation for companies to put in proposal in what area they will want to do that kind of infrastructural work in Tobago. That process is still ongoing. in terms of the invites to the public, that will go project by project in keeping with the procurement rules and procedures and the division's work agenda.
Thank you. You may proceed, Member Hislam.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to follow up where that is concerned, Chairman, I still live in Tobago, and some of the projects highlighted by Mr. Richards, I have not seen those projects. A couple of those projects have not been seen as for public tender. And so we're concerned, and so there should be a concern about the procurement process when it comes to design, finance, build modality. The other thing, the projects, a couple of those projects you have identified, I believe are complete, if not 90% or 99% complete. Let's speak to the one at King Peter Bay Road, which is complete. In terms of the payment, what is the process by which the contractor will be paid, and the length of time that specific project has been completed? Has any payment been made to the contractor to this point?
Well, I cannot give any precise information on payments to the contractor. What I do know, the payment schedule for this project, in keeping with that design build modality, is 10% mobilization, 40% the second payment, the third payment is a 40%, and the final payment is a 10% retention when the whole project is evaluated as being executed in keeping with the technical requirements and built for purpose.
Okay, so in terms of whether the payments are done may not fall under your purview. So we have to get that done elsewhere. From
the line division.
All right, thank you. Moving along, Chairman, according to your submission, a policy decision has been taken that speaks to ensuring commercialization and economic viability for the business model of all THA-owned companies. And this was addressed, I think, earlier when you spoke to the Studley Park quarry. What exactly is the policy decision? And two, what measures are in place to implement such policy? And the third one coming from that is, do you have any concern that if the THA companies are ramped up to be economically viable, that they are going to put pressure on private enterprise on the island?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The policy decision came about after a review of the operation of the THA-owned companies, and where they are currently, as inherited, almost 100% dependent on the subvention from the THA. Some of these businesses are operating in commercial spaces that can generate significant revenue. We have TATCO, we have the Studley Park Quarry, we have EID Cut, just to name a few. The policy position is that the business model of this company must change to reflect commercial opportunities for Tobago and the people of Tobago. In that regard, a mandate has been given to the board of directors of this company to change the business model, to create new opportunities for revenue generation and collection, so that the demands on the THA resources in terms of subvention can be reduced over time. So that's the model, simple as that.
All right, and the third question, if this model is implemented, from a business standpoint as it relates to building a private sector in Tobago, is this model going to stymie the growth of private sector? Or can the THA create a system where it facilitates? So let's say, for instance, let's use the quarry for an example. Can the THA not assist? And this is from your division specifically. Could the division of finance not look at a modality that can create an environment for a private entity, where more so a Tobago private entity, to build out a facility that could then use the raw material from the quarry to have your value added products, thereby creating a private sector initiative that would create employment outside of the TH?
Well, the strategy or the policy decision of the TH does not debar any private enterprise from going in that direction. And let me say that the policy direction of the TH as it relates to its companies is more complementary than competitive to private sector. For instance, EID provides business shell for private business to come in and operate. The efficiency criteria here is how do you operate the industrial park to generate revenue, even if at the break-even point, come to viability and then you move to profitability. TATCO provides marketing support for our farmers and our agro-processors. We market and sell their produce. So it's a symbiotic relationship where we are co-creating opportunities through the THA company with our private sector enterprises to advance the Tobago business development opportunities for all our businesses in Tobago, including the THA businesses.
Understood. I'm just challenged, Chairman, that the THA from a business perspective would seek to compete instead of creating an environment for private sector growth. I'm just my position. Chairman, I have some other questions, but we could move on to some others. And
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I indicated to the member that the THA is not competing. We are complementing the business development of the private sector businesses in Tobago. So I just want to have that clear in the record before we move on, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, I heard Member Hislop's concern, and at least it was voiced and we heard your response. But even I also share Member Hislop's concern about the credit rating. I just wanted to find out one thing. According to your submission in 2020, the THA held discussions with the central government on the matter to access funding outside of the parliamentary allocation. So based on the decision to allow bond financing, are discussions going on to facilitate other additional access to funding outside of the parliamentary allocation?
No, Mr. Chairman, the short answer is no. There's no, we have had conversation with the Minister of Finance as it relates to the bond financing option. And I'm sure you would have come across a submission where we spoke to the issue of the repayment of the bond financing in 2027 and the need for us to provide this kind of funding arrangement in terms of a sinking fund arrangement. We have had that conversation with the Minister of Finance. We have made the submission to the Minister of Finance in the 2022 mid-year budget review. And as stated in the submission, that was not entertained. So given the level of liability that the THA is carrying now that we inherited, and the insufficiency of our parliamentary allocation over the years, and we are constrained to be very prudent in how we go out and borrow additional funding without creating the kind of additional revenue to pay off these liabilities when they become due. So it's a management and it's a responsible management decision that we take this in steps in keeping with our cash flow projections, and which is basically anchored in our parliamentary allocation.
Okay, sure. Another thing I need clarification. The THA was granted permission to access long-term equity financing through the issuance of a 6-year or 300 million bond facility managed by the First Citizen Bank. But the uptake of the bonds was only 164.4 million. What was responsible for this shortfall?
Well, Mr. Minister, I don't know if it was the prevailing economic condition at the time, but the institutional investors only bought $164.4 million of the bonds that was floated on the market by First Citizen on behalf of the Tobago House of Assembly, out of the $300 million that was put on market. Yeah, under the previous administration, that was the uptake in the 300 million bonds that was floated on the market by First Citizen on behalf of the THA at that time.
Sure. Okay, so thank you for that. But we now would want to direct some questions to the concerning tourism, because so I want to know, in terms of tourism, what are the roles and responsibilities of the division in relation to tourism compared to those of the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited?
What are the roles of the division compared to that of the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited?
Tourism, yes, so yeah. We're running, you know, a time check now. We're looking at transitioning into tourism now. So very quickly, we would have to go through some questions.
Chair, the Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation is really an oversight body. TTAL is responsible for tourism rejuvenation in Tobago. And I would ask a member from TTAL to speak more to it.
Based on my understanding, Chair, the Tobago Tourism Agency has strategic oversight of marketing, product development, and research. I know there is a new board of directors which may have had a different mandate, and I would suggest that that is submitted in writing.
Thank you. And how much revenue has Tobago earned from tourism from 2018 to 2022?
Chair, can we provide that in writing, please?
Sure.
We do not have the data in front of us at this point in time.
So we're looking at tourism, the important aspect, but it seems you're a bit challenged to provide some of the revenue that was earned, because remember, if you have to go forward, we would have to get some figures that we would be able to, yeah. So, okay, so I'm a bit disappointed we didn't have those figures in, but could you answer how many domestic tourists has Tobago recorded from 2018 to 2023?
Will have to be submitted every second.
Chair, that figure is available, but we don't have it in front of us at this point in time. Can we provide it in writing, please?
So then my other question was, how many international tourists has Tobago recorded from 2018 to 2023? I guess you would not be able to also give us that information.
No, we can't. So you have to give everything in writing. Once 2018 to 20.
Okay, so then you see your data collection, and I think we may have to improve on that, because to move forward, I think we would have needed those vital figures here. I think Ms. Morris-Julian, you had a question you wanted to
Mr. Chairman, it's just one simple question, right? And hopefully tourism or the finance division will be able to answer this one simple question. I would be aware in 2023, $3 million would have been given specifically to pay the electricity bill of 5 hotels, right? And it'll be interesting if I could just find out on behalf of the listening and viewing public, and of course my goodly self, what was the criteria for paying those electricity bills for those particular hotels, properties, etc. And I'm hoping that since this is not so much statistical data, we'll be able to find the answer. Thank you very much.
Member, I think we could, yeah, sure. We could, yeah, you could go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, permit Mr. Anselm Richards to respond to that question.
Right. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Chairman, it may not be fully correct to say that the THA paid the light bills for some hotels. The unique situation developed during the COVID period, where there is what you call a reserve capacity that is charged to hotels because of the demand they use for electricity. And what happened during the COVID period, because of the lockdown of the country, these businesses were closed. But TNTEC continued to accumulate the cost of the reserve capacity. And it came to the point where when the system was powered up back, these hotels were left with this bill dangling over their heads. We asked the central government to have this waived, and no traction came from Port of Spain. As a responsible administration, we had to make a decision to assist our businesses to put them back on their feet, and the Executive Council made a decision to pay the reserve capacity bills for these hotels.
Member Hislop, I think you had a question to raise concerning Manta Lodge.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up to Member Julian. There are more hotels. All right, let me move on. With regards to Manta Lodge, Mr. Chairman, the hotel was opened and commissioned by the Chief Secretary in February 22nd, 2023. Was commissioned the building on February 22nd, 2023. Keys were handed over to the Division of Tourism Culture on April 6, 2023. Snagging works commenced on May 17, 2023, and was signed off on May 26. The electrical works are completed. However, the contractor is awaiting TNTEC for the date of commissioning of the electricity. What is the estimated date that the lodge will be open for business, given that an estimated cost of 32 million was spent to date to purchase, repair, and upgrade Manta Lodge? And could you share whether this was value for money? This is a question to the Division of Tourism.
I can say for the opening of Manta Lodge, TTAL is responsible for sending out RFP by the end of June for the operationalization or the outright purchase of the hotel. Okay, and as to value for money, the Executive Council took a decision to repair the hotel. Okay, so they probably would see the value for money there. I really can't speak to that.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'm sure I didn't miss what the administrator said. Is it that we are seeking, or the THA is seeking, to put Manta Lodge on the market for sale?
Yes, or to find somebody to manage and to run the facility. Hopefully, international
chain operator.
International operator.
All right. So, in the meantime, Manta Lodge is sitting unused. I have a challenge that the project would have been ongoing for a period of time, and we didn't see it fit to look for an operator or a buyer within the period that the property was being repaired, so that as soon as it was handed over or within short order, we would be able to go out to market for purchase or for operation. But as it relates to sanctuary resorts, you said no additional works have been done after purchase. We know it was purchased under previous administrations. So for the public benefit, could you advise what was the year of purchase? What are the reasons that no work has been done at the resort to date? And is there any upgrade, refurbishment plan, or even sale plan for sanctuary resorts?
Mr. Chair, it's in the public domain that the hotel was purchased for $32 million. Okay. So far, $1.6 million was spent on it. And another $541,379 was spent on it. Was for maintenance and clearing of large trees, bush cutting, cleaning and power washing. Okay. So far the total for months, so the total for sanctuary is $25,474,409.33. $474,409.33.
Okay, Chairman, if the members of Division of Tourism are able to provide it, could you share with us what year this was done in terms of the cleanup? Was it sent out for public tender, and who was the contractor that was awarded the contract to do the cleanup?
Chair, can I provide that answer in writing, please? I do not have that available in front of me at this.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure.
We want to know the
Member Amin, do you want to ask a question? Have you indicated? Yeah, we'll be finished with this, right? Yeah. So, all right. I would like to, based on your submission, the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited works in collaboration with the Standardization Division of Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards to develop and revise various national standards for hotels and guest houses, bed and breakfast, and self-catering facilities. Who ensures that the owners, managers of accommodation facilities and other tourism operators are compliant with the established standards of the industry, for the industry?
The Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards.
And if there are complaints or certain concerns that people who utilize the services, do you have that available to you, or does it go to the Bureau of Standards?
We can request the Bureau of Standards to investigate, especially if it was a TTIC certified property.
Yeah, let me see. And as it concerns the 3-year tourism industry customer service training program to raise customer service standards in Tobago, how many persons have participated in each program?
2,660 certificates were issued over the 5 modules of the tourism industry customer service training project.
And what was the cost to develop and execute each program?
We request permission to submit that information at a later date.
Huh? With reference to the Youth in Tourism program, approximately how many funds have been allocated to the e-tourism youth clubs for fiscal 2022-2023?
Chair, I think Ms. Julian had asked a similar question, and we indicated that we'll provide that in writing.
Has the division conducted a follow-up assessment to determine whether participants from the Youth in Tourism program have become involved in the tourism industry?
Right, through you, Chair, as it relates to the Youth in Tourism program, which is managed by the Program Coordination Unit in the division, the program coordinator has indicated that they continue to follow up with students to determine whether they move on to work in the sector. To give an exact figure, that information would have to be provided by the Program Coordination Unit. But from my knowledge, I do know of a few success stories of students who have transitioned through the youth club and are working in the sector. In fact, one of the participants currently sits as the secretary on the board of directors of the Tobago Tourism Agency. That's just one of the success stories. So we do have students who transition from the secondary school program and continue further studies in tourism and work in the sector locally, but that information can be provided.
Okay, so I'm a little disappointed we're not getting, the information we thought we could have moved forward with. But Mr. Hislop, do you have any follow-up questions concerning small tourism enterprise program? Or...
Yes, Chairman. It's not necessarily on small tourism, but I have two challenges there. I have a challenge, one, with the division's inability to provide the necessary data, especially with the arrivals. I think the division was given ample time to collate the information, because you're coming to a joint select committee meeting, and I think basic information as arrival numbers should be at the tip of officials of the division's fingers. The other thing is that we're dealing with tourism and the agency that is primarily responsible for working with tourism, and some key senior members of the agency is not available for this joint select committee meeting. And I just want to register that, because this is critical information. Tourism has been has been the mainstay of Tobago's economy, as we like to say. So I think that greater emphasis should have been paid by the officers of the agency to be here. But I want to treat it with the two major festivals that we've had based on what we have here, the 2023 Jazz Festival and the 2022 Tobago Carnival. And the income and expenditure, as detailed in the submissions by the division, says that we had a total income of $9,207,183. That was the total income, and these came from the THA subvention of $368,153, corporate donations of $830,000, gate receipts of $9,030. But when we look at the expenditure, Mr. Chairman, we have a deficit from the Tobago Carnival of $706,317.58. So the Tobago Carnival registered a loss based on the figures that we received from the division. And in their submission, they went on to say that a study in their response to the committee, a study of the Tobago Carnival 2022 was conducted, and the report is being evaluated as a result. The extent to which the Tobago Carnival 2022 generated the level of economic activity anticipated by the THA cannot be ascertained at this time. So one, we're in June, and more than likely we should be having another carnival by October. So my question to the division is, if the study has not been completed, so we can't ascertain the benefits, do we still think that it is a viable option to have this level of expenditure for a carnival this year? And also, right, they could answer that question, Chairman, and then we'll treat with the Jazz Festival after.
Mr. Chairman, through you, Mr. Chairman, I think it may be necessary us to put the Tobago Carnival into its socio-economic perspective before we. So the Tobago Carnival was not conceptualized as a profit-making event from the perspective of the THA, but rather a vehicle to bring human traffic into the island. If you understand the nature of the Tobago economy, you need human traffic to generate economic activity, commercial activity on the island. So from the THA perspective, the carnival was intended to bring human traffic, and we will see that that has happened with the numbers of persons coming to the island for the event. So the issue of whether the carnival is profitable for the THA was not the original design of the event. As it relates to the report was done. The study was done by the research unit of TITAL. However, it requires what we call peer review. So the report was sent to the Division of Finance Research Unit that is headed by Dr. Selvon Hazel, and the report is being reviewed, peer reviewed for its technical soundness. The information is there. As soon as that is clarified, we are going to make the report available to the committee and to the national community. There is nothing here that we are withholding or hiding from our people. We are open and transparent as an administration.
So, Chairman, I want to make it that I didn't accuse anybody of hiding anything from our people. I was just making the point, based on the figures that are in front of us, that there was a deficit, or there is a deficit as it relates to the carnival. And Mr. Richards clearly stated, Chairman, that there are numbers of persons that came to the island, and we established that as of now in this meeting, the Division of Tourism has been unable to provide the numbers of arrivals to the island, and that those numbers should also include the numbers for Carnival. So it seems, all I'm saying is that based on the information in front of us this morning, that we are operating within a vacuum. And I understand that what is required is to bring people to Tobago. I don't expect that the THA will always look to be in the business of making money from events. But I'm just asking the question, based on what we have here, a deficit of 706,000, do we think that it is wise for the THA to put out that level of investment for another carnival, most likely this year, without the requisite information from the study? And we're hoping that we can have that information, as you clearly stated, Mr. Richards. Through you, Chair.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you again, Mr. Hislop, for the question. Two things here. The the number of visitors to the island has been published by both the Port Authority and the Airport Authority. So for the carnival period, I really can't pull the data set from my system now, but the data was put in the public space. I'm going to retrieve it and I'm going to make it available to the committee. On the issue of the finding of the study, the study has been done. The indicators are there, but just give us the time to apply the science to this research. So that when we come to you, we give you scientific information that is technically sound and well.
Which is what we are adjudicating on. That based on the information, that is why I asked the question. So we gladly await the findings of the study, and we are very hopeful that from a socio-economic standpoint, that the carnival benefited the island. We know the guest houses and the car rentals and the food places would have benefited just from a layman perspective. But I'm just dealing with the figures in front of us. And hopefully and it's the same thing with the Jazz Festival, Chairman.
Yeah. Member,
right?
1 minute.
So,
I think Ms. Morris Julian may have a related question concerning Carnival. Do you have a related question, ma'am? Yeah.
Chairman, I will give way to Member Hislop because I'm actually extremely interested in the Jazz Festival. I've never been, so I would love to hear details.
Okay, so Member Hislop, proceed.
Sorry, Chairman. So again, I'm looking at an income of 5,516,385 with the THA subvention of 3.1 million. Corporate donations of 330,000, gate receipts 2.04, other income 44, accounts receivables 37,000. So there was an income of 5 million plus. The total expenditure was in the vicinity of about 11.9 million. And so there again, based on the submissions from the division, we have a deficit of 6.402786 million, which was incurred by the Tobago Jazz Experience. And again, we've established the fact that the THA may not be in the business of always making a profit, but to bring people to the island for your spin-off economic activities. So the question we have, what are the main factors which contributed to the significant deficit that occurred for the Tobago Jazz Experience? How does the division intend to cover this cost? And what would account for the commission only being able to source 2 corporate sponsors, Carib and Stag, at a value of 330,000? What was the total number of patron attendance at the Jazz Festival events? I know it seems like a lot, but those are the questions that are before us.
Chairman, I just want to add one little question to the senator's questions. Could we also find out how much ticket sales? That's all I need. Simple number. How many were complimentary and how many were actual sales to the general public? Thank you.
Chair, I'll ask Mr. Trim to clarify some of those questions, please.
Good morning again to everybody. The Tobago Jazz Festival is mostly financed by the Tobago House of Assembly. And there would have been an approved note in the vicinity of $12.1 million to facilitate the execution of the festival. So that in fact, we're using the deficit of 6 million plus. That is in fact going to come from the THA through the approved budget of 12.1 million. In terms of the corporate sponsorship, I can't speak to in terms of why there was only 2. Outreaches were made to the various sectors. There would have been, these are cash donations, there will also be donations in kind, but that information I can't provide to you at this time, but that will be provided later. That will have assisted with some of the costs of the events. Overall, in terms of patronage for the events, it would have been just over about 4,000 patrons to cover all 3 events. And with respect to the question asked by member Julian, in terms of the breakdown, that information we can provide to you later in writing, as I don't have that with me at the moment. The gate receipts amounted to just over 2.2 million, sorry, with the other income adding up to about 400,000. So total income from that event would have been 2.4 million. Just about.
So looking at some of the figures, we've seen that there was a loss in terms of the carnival, which is a new venture, which I think you would be making some sort of amends to make it profitable in the future as it's now starting. It's in its initial stages. But looking at the history of the Jazz Festival, which has been not been financially feasible over the years. So we are looking at 2 major events that is not really somehow adding to the coffers. If you had to make a choice, do you think that to choose one, do you think the Jazz Festival or the Carnival might be more profitable in the future?
Well, our chair, as indicated by Mr. Richards in his previous contribution, the festivals were not particularly designed to make a profit for the executing agencies. And what we are currently doing is trying to reduce that deficit between the expenditure and the revenue. Like Carnival and so on, the benefits that accrue throughout the island or throughout the country, that is what counts. And I know there's a study done by Kyrie Consultants in 2018 that speaks to the economic benefit to the island. And where there was a budget of, I believe, of about 11 million expended, translated in terms of economic benefits to about 14.1 million. So as indicated by Mr. Richards, for instance, and you would have indicated it, the benefits with the accommodation, the rentals, the transportation, the service providers of stages and sound and lighting and chairs and so on, small business people. That's where the benefits occur in terms of the expenditure put out by the THA.
Thank you. Mr. Hislop, do you have any questions? Sorry, go ahead.
So, your Chair, if I can also add, as it relates to the Tobago Jazz experience, the current administration, through the Chief Secretary, has indicated that the Tobago Jazz experience, as it was this year, was the last year for the Tobago Jazz experience in its current format, acknowledging that the viability as it relates to the figures and the dependency on the Tobago House of Assembly is not one that is probably most palatable, if that's the best word to use. As such, for the 2024 Tobago Jazz experience, if they do decide to move forward in that regard, the business model will be reviewed. I know this year the Tobago Jazz experience also charged for all the events. A major defining characteristic of previous Tobago Jazz experiences were a number of events that were open to the public. But this year, the number of events were drastically reduced, and an entrance fee was applied to all events, which was also new. Again, acknowledging that there should be increase in the return on investment. So, Chair, we essentially may not be able to make a decision on either or, but I know steps are being made to move in the direction of course, increasing returns on investments.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, you might be redesigning your business model. But have you looked at other Caribbean islands who have the jazz festivals, and see, are they making profits? Have you done a comparison? Yeah.
At this time, no, we have not.
Okay, so this is something probably we could look at comparing why, if other islands are also running a negative sort of balance. Okay, at this point, I think yeah, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, just to add a few things on the issue of the Tobago Carnival, and I want to cast it in the backdrop of the National Carnival, because there is this profit and loss conversation around the Tobago Carnival, and we don't have that same conversation when we speak about the National Carnival. The National Carnival attracts an annual expenditure of $140 million, which is almost half of Tobago's development budget. And I would like to know what is the return to the national coffers when that investment is made by the central government. But if we understand the reality of the Tobago economy, which is a service-led economy, tourism-driven government power, that speaks to how we have to set up our business processes on this island to ensure that there is economic activity and commercialization that will bring livelihoods to our business community. And if it means that the THA has to put some of these events that will attract visitors to the island in the issue of festival tourism, that's an investment we have to make. It's like an insurance policy that we are paying to keep our economy alive. And government just has to take that kind of heavy lifting when the time comes. Until we are able to diversify and grow the other sectors of the economy, then the THA will be able to shed some of this heavy lifting that it is doing as it relates to these festivals. But at the end of the day, because of the very construct of our island economy, this is something that the THA is forced to engage in until we re-engineer this economy going forward. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Yes, yeah.
Once I hear Mr. Richards, we understand that. We not hear this downplaying the fact that festivals don't necessarily, or festivals are not necessarily profitable. They're not profitable at all, but from the person who is executing it, from a government standpoint. But it is the spin-off that we are seeking that creates the profit. But what we still have to do as a committee and as a people is to still drill down into the funding and the expenditure, because it is taxpayers' monies that we are spending. But just to get back to the question, I have a couple of questions here, a few questions here for the Division of Tourism as it relates to marketing. And we've always heard that one of the biggest challenges that we have as an island is our marketing strategy, that Tobago isn't marketed enough, we don't spend enough money on marketing. So you said in your submission that the THA has not yet established a single electronic portal or similar digital platform specifically designed to facilitate investment opportunities with Tobago, although this was recommended in the committee's report in 2016. First question, what are the reasons the portal has not been established? The other question, and you could take them so that I don't have to come back. In terms of name recognition, what is brand Tobago? How does Tobago compare to the other Caribbean islands? What is the key marketing strategy used to encourage international tourists to Tobago? And I have two others, but I'll pause there for now so that those could be answered.
The first question I won't be able to answer since the definitely the second one.
Not really the second one.
Okay.
That answer the question.
Through you, Chairman, I'll answer the second question put forward by Mr. Hislop. So just to be clear, you want to find out what is brand Tobago and what are the key strategies used to attract visitors to Tobago?
Yes.
Right. So in 2018, the agency as one of its first strategies to reposition Tobago, embarked on a rebranding exercise. And that rebranding exercise led to the establishment of a go-to-market strategy and the brand we now know as Tobago Beyond Ordinary, Untouched, Unspoiled, Undiscovered. And that brand was basically built on what the perceived negative impressions are of Tobago. Tobago is backward, we don't have things to do, etc. So we were able to distill that into 4 brand cornerstones, or sea and beaches, or people, culture and heritage, or eco adventure, and naturally weddings and romance. So through that, our strategy is built on those 4 cornerstones and a variety of things to do in Tobago to debunk that conception that Tobago, that misconception that Tobago does not have anything to do and we are actually backward. And the brand signature Untouched, Unspoiled, Undiscovered reinforces that. So during that process of rebranding, we met with all our international partners to decipher whether it's something that can really create a strong position for Tobago. And during that process, we had what we considered a launch of the brand in all our key source markets at that point in time: Canada, Germany, USA, and Canada, Germany, the UK, and naturally we did it domestically with all local stakeholders. From 2018 right down to 2023, all of our activities on the consumer side, meaning what we do facing our consumers to encourage them to be intrigued and interested in Tobago, has been led with that narrative of Tobago being not the quintessential Caribbean island, but offering something that is different, untouched, unspoiled, and undiscovered. And it has been done through creative strategies such as out-of-home displays, because that was one of the recommendations from the committee in 2016. We even had some branded taxi cabs throughout London, and this was replicated as well in the Germany as our key source, one of our key source markets. We have also partnered with publications we know that will resonate with the audiences that Tobago can attract, because we can't be everything to everyone. So we have been very selective in who we work with to get a greater bang for our buck. And we have submitted some of these partners we have worked with from 2018 right down to 2023, including National Geographic, Wanderlust. Wanderlust has actually given Tobago the Reader's Choice Award because of the content that we have distributed about Tobago along our brand cornerstones. On the trade side, because Tobago is a long-haul destination, so it's very important for us to educate travelers and travel sellers why they should book Tobago. So on the trade side, we have revamped the way in which we engage travel agents. So giving them experiential training opportunities, not just making a presentation, was key and a forefront feature of our marketing activities. So when we make our sales calls and our visits, it's always about giving them a taste of Tobago. In addition to that, we have been able to train agents in key catchment areas, because again, we have to be smart about our spending and who we work with to ensure that these partners can represent the key selling points of Tobago in terms of sea and beaches, eco adventure, people, culture and heritage, and even on micro niches such as birding and diving. So I hope that encapsulates what we do in terms of the strategy and what we do to attract visitors to Tobago. And this is underscored by digital marketing thrust. In the submission, we would have indicated the attention we pay to the brand voice, what people are saying. So our content is evergreen and topical. So we try to keep abreast of what travelers are searching for, what they want to learn, and we create content along those lines to make sure Tobago remains top of mind. And over the last year or 2 years, since our borders have been reopened January 2022, the Tobago Tourism Agency has been actively re-engaging with all our key travel partners. The pandemic has severely changed the landscape of tourism and hospitality. So quite a few of our partners have restructured or even closed down. So it was very important for us to participate in the relevant trade and consumer shows to keep Tobago abreast of what is happening and also leverage the opportunities that we have in markets. And you would see that being published in the local media in terms of the birding shows, your diving shows, your wedding shows. So all these strong selling points for Tobago have been a forefront of our strategy for 2022 and 2023.
So,
yeah.
Follow up, Chairman.
So,
in terms of the marketing.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Yes.
Yeah, in terms of the marketing, what events has the agency sponsored between 2022 and 2023? Specifically the value of each sponsorship. I don't know if you could provide that in writing. And how do you come up with the events that you give sponsorship to? So we need to know because I believe that all of this is part of the marketing strategy of the agency. So we would like to know what events you've sponsored and what is the value of the sponsorship to these events, and how do you choose which events you sponsor?
So we will get that.
Right.
In writing. But I was a bit encouraged when I heard about your trust, in the at least selling Tobago out there. But I would want to ask, your discussions that, according to your submissions, discussions were held in October 2022 to discuss a marketing strategy towards improving the viability of the JFK TAB flight. What was the outcome of these discussions?
So to answer your question, Chairman, one of the main markets we have identified for recovery, post-pandemic recovery, was the USA markets. So we do have that USA JFK flights, and we thought that it would be prudent to initiate a few conversations and joint marketing opportunities with Caribbean Airlines to anchor the relevance of Caribbean Airlines with the USA travelers, because it's not necessarily the first airline that USA travelers will go to. So the conversations in October 2022, there's still the opportunities we can explore jointly through our overseas representatives and also through the networks that Caribbean Airlines has. And special emphasis was placed on diaspora marketing to leverage the opportunities to connect with the diaspora community through that JFK flight, and also the passion niches that I mentioned earlier. Diving, the USA markets is one of those key source markets for diving. So the conversation centered around how we can collaborate to attract specific type of travelers, because it's all about numbers and filling the planes. And that is what the conversation basically was about.
So what has been the passenger uptake thus far? Is it increasing over 70%? Can give us an idea?
That information will have to be submitted in writing because it's not available at this point in time. But I am sure it's accessible.
I would like to welcome Member Renuka Sagam Singh Suklal here also, but I see Member Julian has a question I think she wanted to pose also. Yeah.
Actually, through you, Chairman, I just want to make a comment, and I feel very much obligated to make this comment. This is a committee that is supposed to be on a fact-finding mission, and it is very difficult that throughout this entire experience, I keep hearing the same thing: we do not have this information, it will be available in writing. And I just would like, through you, Chairman, to let the THA know that we may have to call them back, because I want to discuss the information at length. And every time I hear, Chairman, through you, that we do not have the information, I'm very disappointed, and I'm being messaged by members of the public who are expressing the same disappointment. Joint Select is a very serious arm of the Parliament, and it must be treated with the respect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so as I myself had mentioned that, and I think Member Hislop has mentioned our disappointment and as you know, it seems to be disappointing to come here and we are still having to await basic information about the figures in the tourism industry, basic figures that we need to know how that Tobago would be going forward with this major trust, that we had given them to help us with this tourism. Mr. Member Hislop, do you have a follow-up question? So any questions?
Chairman, I'm looking at the incentives for airlines to fly to Tobago. So I have two questions coming out of that. According to the submission from the division for the period 2022 to 2023, 5.6 million has been paid to date. In addition, according to the existing airline contracts, a further payment of 15 million is expected to be paid out before September 2023. Does the increase in allocation represent an increase in flights to and from Tobago? And what portion of the 15 million represents arrears? And I just want to jump very quickly to a decision that I felt was a bit challenging. Do we think, or does the agency think that it was a poor decision to discontinue the Virgin Atlantic flight to Tobago in relation to the new initiative that Virgin is seeking to do with its island hopping throughout the Caribbean?
Based on the question posed, Mr. Hislop, the information I have at hand is that the decision to discontinue Virgin Atlantic was a financial one. Post-pandemic, there was a review of the expenditure, listing for the agency. With regards to the implications of that, that will be a question that will have to be answered in writing by my principal.
Mr. Chairman, I want to register my disappointment that senior members of TITA chose not to come to the committee today. Again, Member Julian reiterated the point that the Joint Select Committee is a serious arm of the Parliament. And it cannot be treated this way, that senior members are unable to attend, and you have officers who are willing but are unable to answer the questions that are posed to them because it is not within their remit. So the other two questions that I hope we could get an answer to is, does the increase in allocation represent an increase in flights to and from Tobago? And what portion of the 15 million represents arrears?
So as I also again would reflect your sentiments, and I'm saying I'm a bit disappointed that the Joint Select Committee, we are this committee actually looks at the Tobago House of Assembly, the functioning, how it's doing its duties, and I think we owe it to the citizenry out there to present to them what's going on in Tobago, how we can help the Tobago, how we can help the TAJ to meet its mandate, how we could look at any sort of deficiencies. So again, I'm feeling that we came today and we expected more, but I must make mention that on Wednesday, July the 5th, we would be having a second meeting concerning the THA, and we may have to invite you members to come on board again, and hopefully then we will be able to be given information that would be adequate to us to go forward with some sort of recommendations with our report. So at this stage, we are hoping to wrap up by 12:45. And I must say, I would like to invite at this stage, any members had any other question that they would like to pose at this stage?
Chairman, my final question.
Urgent question. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my final question has to do with, we talk about the Welcome Home Aviation. TITA participated in the Welcome Home activation at the Piarco International Airport, which was Caribbean Airlines Welcome Home initiative. I don't want to deal so much with our domestic airline, but I want to find out, where do we stand in Tobago as it relates to attracting additional international airlift from our source markets, primarily the European market? And what plans are there to make more inroads into the North American market? And I'll leave that there, those two questions there for me today.
So through you, Chairman, I know there is a subcommittee of the Board of Directors that deals with airlifts, and there's an airlift committee that may be able to answer those questions in more detail. In terms of the efforts in the North American markets, I alluded to the fact earlier that we do have destination representatives in North America, which were established in 2022, and this was relatively new for the agency. So they are making plans and inroads to make sure that there's sufficient representation and activities within the USA markets. That is as much as I can say, and anything relating to airlift, we will have to submit in writing from our principals.
Let me also add through the chair, if possible, to Member Hislop. As it relates to further airlift conversation, fellow member Devines indicated that at the level of the board of the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited, there is an airlift subcommittee. At present, there is negotiation ongoing for an international airline, but because of the stage of the negotiation, that information cannot be shared just yet publicly, but we can provide that information to the committee. Additionally, the National Airlift Committee was recently called by Minister Mitchell, and the Secretary of Tourism will sit on that National Airlift Committee, but they are yet to meet. That information recently came forward. As it relates to arrivals to the destination, domestic and international arrivals, I do have some figures that I would like to share. So for domestic arrivals via ferry for the year 2018, 175,531. 2019, 264,518. 2020, the year of the pandemic, 219,274. Domestic arrivals by air, 2018, 472,271 passengers. 2019, 497,675 passengers. 2020, with the onset of the pandemic, 183,557. If you would notice the trend, we were experiencing increasing arrivals, both domestically and internationally, with the emergence of the Tobago Tourism Agency, which really began operations in the year 2017 into 2018. I have some figures as well as it relates to the total stay over. 2018, 18,058 passengers. 2019, 19,542, and then 2020, of course, the year of the pandemic, 6,670. And then internationally, the previous figures I gave were for domestic stay over. International, we had 27,683 in 2018, 29,723 in 2019, and in 2020, 8,434. Now, for the period January to March for this year, when we compare to 2022, of course, that is when the borders opened for Tobago, long after our national counterparts as well as regional counterparts. For the same period, of course, we have seen an exponential increase of 185% for the stay over arrivals. 2023, 4,743. However, in 2022, that figure was 1,667. As it relates to the domestic arrivals, again, we see the uptick in the numbers. The total domestic arrivals are currently up by 22.6% when compared to the period 2022 from January to April. For this year, January to April 2023. So the total arrivals by air, 101,675 for 2023. When we compare 2022 with 70,820, and the same for ferry. Yeah.
I appreciate, I'm seeing a little optics in arrival, and this is something we need to get out there. And I thank you for that information. We need to get, because of the essence of time, we have, so I thank you for these figures. And at this stage, I would like to invite Ms. Nikita Otley to please give us some brief closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy, I wish to thank you and the Joint Select Committee for affording us this opportunity to be here today and to undergo the scrutiny of this inquiry, as it is necessary for us to give account to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. It is, however, unfortunate that all of the information could not have been provided at this hearing. If I should speak specifically to the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy, approximately 80% of the information which I would have to give at a later time does not relate to the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy, but rather is resident at other divisions within the THA. Notwithstanding that, the information would be provided, and we do look forward to appearing at another hearing at a subsequent time. I thank you.
Thank you. And would Mr. Suresh Duku please give us some brief closing comments?
Chair, I thank you, and I thank you for the opportunity for Division of Tourism, Antiquities, Culture and Transportation to make this presentation. Let me apologize for some of the data that you were requesting right now. We were unable to provide it. Not that we don't have it available, but we'll provide it at a later date. And in preparation, the questions that you sent us, we would have concentrated our effort around those questions, and we just don't have the data in front of us at this point in time. What we have, we did supply, and I look forward if you are inviting us again on the 5th to have a lot more information available to you and to the Joint Select Committee. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. And again, we would have a follow-up meeting, and we expect us to invite you to attend, because for the interest of people in Tobago and in Trinidad, at least to get more information, and even for us to see how we can go forward to make further recommendations to see where we have reached. So I wish to thank all you stakeholders for your attendance, for sharing your invaluable knowledge and expertise to the committee. I want to thank my committee members for being here, the staff also of the Office of the Parliament for your procedural and logistical support, the viewing and the listening audience. And at this stage, I would like to declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, everyone.